Welcome back. Welcome to lesson 3. In the last lesson we looked at trailing LED lights. An example of the application will be Christmas lights. Some of the lights come on at a particular time, some go off, and then they're programmed like that with some sort of a delay. In today's lesson we'll be looking at street lights. Have you ever come to an intersection and watched the green light turn from green to yellow and then to red and wonder how they make that work? We're going to answer that question by the end of the lesson using our Arduino and a few components. So if you open up your lesson 3 and look at the hardware required, we have the jumper wires, the breadboard, the Arduino, and then 3 LED lights: the yellow, the green, and the red. And we would need 3 resistors. If your instructions have this mistake, make sure you correct it. It's not 1, it's 3, okay? And they have a schematic, which by now you probably are starting to figure out the way the schematics work. Then let's move on to what the circuit diagram looks like, which at this point you probably want to pause the video and make sure you set it up, but I'm just going to quickly go over. Remember, we use the dark black and blue wires to represent the ground, and then we use the red and pink colored wires to represent the live wires. And we're going to connect the ground to the blue line on the power rail and then complete the circuit that way, just like we did with the trailing LEDs. And then in this case, if you recall from the last lesson, we had LEDs from pin 2 all the way up to pin 7. Today we're going to use pin 7, pin 5, and pin 3 to represent the red, the green, the yellow, and the red LED. And your lesson comes with a sample code, which I would recommend you type it in. Alright, and here's what my code looks like. Let me quickly bring us over to the schematic. Alright, here's what my code looks like all typed in. I'm going to try to explain next to the schematic, that way you can follow through, okay? So we start again by initializing and defining our variables, okay? And so remember, int stands for integer, and we're going to call that integer red LED, okay? And then for the red LED, we're going to apply pin number 3, which means that your red LED connects to pin 3 on your Arduino. In the last example, we had random LEDs connected from 2 through 7. This time around, you need to be specific as to which one connects to which pin, and you make sure you identify those in your definitions. The next thing defined here is the yellow LED. We're going to put that in pin 5. Remember, int, that stands for an integer, and then the name, that's the yellow LED, that's what we call it going forward, and then equals 5. It means from now, hence, if I say yellow LED in my code, that directly refers to pin 5. And then same with the green LED, we'll plug that into pin 7. So we're using the pin numbers 7, 5, and 3 on the digital side of our output. And then, as usual, we're going to right? The setup, that's the code that gets run once when you start your program, okay? And all it does is it sets the output to the red LED. The pin mode simply defines what mode your pins are at. And just like we did in the last lesson, the red LED output, yellow LED output, green LED output. Remember, when you connect your LEDs, it's a light emitting diode. It only leaves current flow in one direction. So make sure you connect the positive of the LED to the positive. It's represented by the long end of the LED. There's a long arm and a short arm. Do not forget that. All right. And so now the loop part of our code, that's the part that gets run repeatedly. So the street light runs over and over again. That way it doesn't just run once and then stop. Because people are going to drive up to the light. Okay, it has to give some time when it's green so people go through. It has to give some time when it's yellow. And then it'll give some time when it's red so cars can stop and wait for cars on the other side of the intersection to go through. So if you follow through with the code, it starts with the green light. So it sets the green LED at high, and then it delays for 5,000 milliseconds. That's 5 seconds, which means that this is a pretty quick it's a pretty quick traffic light. It only allows the green for 5 seconds, and then it sets the green to low. Remember, the yellow light never turns to a solid yellow. If you are a little confused about this, ask your mom or dad or your uncle. Ask them how the street light functions, okay? The yellow light always blinks, and we have to include that in our code. So what do? We use a for loop. It's one of those conditional loops. This is the second time we're using this. We used it in the last lesson. So we start by setting I equals 0. We use I a lot when we do these loops, okay? And then we say, okay, as long as I is still less than 3, we run it once, and then we increase I by 1. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to make the yellow light blink 3 times. So when I is 0, it's going to blink. And then 0 is less than 3, it will go to I equals 1. And then it will blink again. 1 is still less than 3, it will go I equals 2. And then it will blink again. And then it will add 1 to it. But then once it goes to I equals 3, it's like, oops, 3 is not less than 3, so it would stop. And by then the yellow light must have blinked 3 times. And then after that, it sets the yellow light to a solid yellow light instead of a blinking light. And then it turns the yellow light off. And then it goes to a red light. Keeps it at high, down here. Delays for 5,000 milliseconds again, that's 5 seconds. And then turns the red light off. And that's the end of our code. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that. If you look at the bottom, it's computing as usual. And then it's going to go to uploading. At this time, it's sending the code to our Arduino. And then it says done uploading. So there's my circuit complete. You notice I have the live wires coming from the pins, pin 3, pin 5, and pin 7 as described by our code. And you notice the resistors are connected to the live side of the LED. And you notice that the neutral wire is connected using the power lines. I have the ground moving from here to that end, and then each and every terminal comes back to the ground. And now observe what's happening. Okay, so right now you can't pass because the light is red, and then the light turns green for 5 seconds. Now you can go through, and then the light is yellow blinking, which means if you're in the intersection you need to go through, and then it turns red. Alright, that concludes lesson 3. We went over the basic circuit and instructions on how to construct a street light. Now for your homework, or what I would like you to try on your own, is delay the time a little bit. If you notice, I with the sample code created a street light that where the green light is on for 5 seconds, and then you get a 3 beeps, and then the yellow light, and then it goes right for 5 seconds. So for your homework or something to practice, I'll need you to create a street light that stays on for 30 seconds on green and 20 seconds on red, and beeps 3 times. Snap a short video and send it to me when it's complete. Whoever gets this right will be getting a little bit of credit as we go forward. Sound good? And I'll see you in lesson 4.